What's up, Moses? How you doing?
I'm doing phenomenal. I'm in this library right now. We got to make this podcast happen however we can. So I'm at the local library I used to come to as a kid. So it's kind of a weird experience, but it's fun. I'm excited to talk to you today.
You're a little nostalgic or what?
A little bit. A
from,
little
from
bit.
the old library. Yeah, I'm home
Exactly.
too, so it's just weird being home with the family. Definitely after I just graduated college as well. It's like just a different vibe. I don't know.
Yeah. How long are you planning on being home for?
My plan right now is around like June pretty much because my brother's graduating high school like within the next week, and then I'm going to the Bahamas in mid-June, so a few weeks away, and then I'm probably gonna head back to Arizona, spend the dog days of summer there when it gets to be 110, and then figure it out from there. So yeah,
Dude, when it's like 110 in Arizona, are you still like on your health stuff, like going outside long walks, even when it's like absurdly hot?
I actually haven't spent summer there because every single time I've came home. So, but to start this summer of 100-degree weather, I was pretty much doing just as much. And part of the reason why is because there's dry heat there, so it's not really that bad compared to like humidity, where if it's 80 and humid, it's honestly worse than 100 in dry heat. So yeah.
Damn, bro. I cannot imagine going out in like 100 degree walks. And I know you do your little like, shirtless thing, listening to podcasts. I do the same thing, getting all that
Yeah.
sun. But I've been talking with my mom about this topic. And I'm like, okay, I'm seeing all these people on Twitter talk about how you don't even want to use sunscreen. It's actually bad for you. So I'm curious, like,
Yeah.
what's your thoughts on that?
I guess for me, my thoughts are growing up, I always had a mom who told me to put on sunscreen and two grandmas who both like kind of like had skin cancer and just skin issues in general. So it was always lather up, specifically for like baseball if we went to the beach. And I even remember when I was really little, my younger brother, he got like a third-degree burn on his feet from going to the beach. He's got red hair, so really fair skin. So I've always had that kind of ingrained in me to like put on sunscreen, but naturally I just didn't like it. I think I don't know, I would just like rub it on and I just didn't like the way it felt on me always. So probably around like 5 years ago, I would say I just kind of said with it like whatever, I'm not going to put it on. And that was even before I got into health and I never really went out in the sun that much. So it was never too much of a problem. But I saw some stuff on Twitter just about seed oils being like the real cause for a lot of like sunburn in general. So I actually tried that out myself of just limiting seed oils from my diet, which I already did, and then just going out in the sun progressively, like starting with getting morning sunlight and like when the sun comes down, both of those times a day is when it's like basically like red light for free because that's the kind of light that's coming off from the sun. It's like low UV light, so it doesn't burn you at all. So progressively, I just worked up to being like, all right, I'm gonna tan out in the sun, and I would start to feel myself like if I felt like I was gonna get a little bit of a burn, I would just go inside. And I was actually going to throw out a thread on it pretty soon just because I never had been tan in my life. And like the tannest I ever have, and I haven't gotten any burns from it. So I think it's true. Just no seed oils and yeah, pretty much just ease your way into it. So yeah.
That's so surprising to me up until the past couple of months that like your diet would actually impact your skin and like seed oils could be the reason you get sunburned. So if you know like what is going on there like biologically, how are certain types of foods causing sunburn on the skin?
Well, what I do know is that seed oils have something in them that like kind of I don't know if it like reflects off, but it somehow like gets onto like the outside of your skin and like so that's what's happening. It's like burning the actual seed oil. I don't know. But as far as diet playing a factor, I think it does make sense just because everything you eat is going to be processed by your body and then eventually make up what like your body like is basically like I think it's like every 130 days or something, like your white blood cells or whatever, like literally like cycled through. So you're like a new person essentially. So it makes sense that like a change to your diet, you would not get burned anymore. But as far as like the actual like science on it, I don't really know too much besides the fact that like seed oils are contributing to people getting burned. And I kind of thought it was just like a little bit of a fad, and people just seeing like, oh, don't eat seed oils, whatever. And I think it's really like honestly like a huge thing to just avoid seed oils, because in the process of avoiding seed oils, you're gonna avoid like most processed foods. And then also just we didn't have them in our diet before the last like 70 or so years. So it's like before then we were eating all animal based products. So I think that's the way that all humans should operate. So
Yeah, after getting into like this more health side of Twitter, following you, listening to a lot of people on your podcast has been amazing for me to learn about this stuff because even before like a couple days ago, I thought going to Chipotle and getting a bowl, like a burrito bowl with rice, chicken, guacamole, all this stuff, I thought it was really healthy, right? The food seems healthy. But I put a question on Twitter and I asked people, like, is Chipotle healthy? Like, for all you health bros out there, because I love this stuff. And
yeah.
a lot of people were saying how it's not because they're just lathering it in seed oils. They're cooking it completely in seed oils. And it's like how do you completely avoid it? Because for me, I love to go to get Chipotle, and it seems like something that's healthy
Yeah.
for me. But it seems like everywhere I turn, it seems like seed oils are prevalent. So how do you avoid it completely in your life?
Well, to address like the initial thing about Chipotle being unhealthy, I wouldn't necessarily say it's unhealthy, even though it has seed oils. Like, I mean, I feel like everyone kind of has a different level of health, and for most people, they're just eating processed foods that are like just made of like, I don't know, like wheat and like grain and stuff like that, and just ice cream and too much sugar and stuff. So I think a bowl at Chipotle where you're getting rice, meat, an avocado, some sour cream, cheese, whatever, that's still like healthy in the grand scheme of things. Um, but for me, I try to avoid seed oils by cooking at home. So um, I'll literally just make my food at home with either like butter, olive oil, like tallow. I like ghee. So just using oils that don't have seed or aren't seed oils. So that's the best way to do it, is just to make your food at home. And for me, it's gotten to the point where I love cooking. So and I love like the way that food tastes. So it's like, why would I pay more to go out and buy a food that isn't going to satisfy me as much? Because like, even if you go to Chipotle, like the amount of protein you're going to get there, you're probably going to have to pay like $18 or something. And it's like I can get a pound of meat that's probably grass fed for like $12 or something like that. And then I don't know. To me, it's going to taste better, and I'm going to know it's not in seed oils. So I think there's not like a right answer to it as far as how are you going to eliminate seed oils like completely out of your diet, since like the restaurants are just so like laden with them. It's kind of just like if you go out to eat, you pretty much have to accept it. But you can ask to like, if you get like a steak or something, you could ask for them to cook it in butter, I know. So you could try to avoid it and try to be like, allergic to seed oils, can you please cook in butter or tallow, and they might accommodate you. So
Fascinating stuff. And so when I cook at home, I've always used like the sprays, like the 0 calorie sprays, because I don't want the extra
yeah.
calories, right? I'm trying to stay lean and skinny. But you're saying it's
Yeah.
actually healthier to like cook in butter, olive oil, coconut oil, and you look at the ingredients and you look at the calories, and it's like it's a lot of calories for olive oil. It's a lot of calories for
Mhm.
butter. So how do you balance that when people maybe are more in the mindset of like, I want to be as low calorie as possible, but low calorie doesn't necessarily mean healthier? Like, what is your mindset on that?
I used to do the same thing with like the before I like kind of eliminated seed oils, just using like Pam spray, which I think is normally like a blend of like canola and sunflower and all those. And for me personally, I kind of just don't really think about calories, as far as I know like I kind of tracked my calories for a bit like a few years ago, so I know like the rough ranges on stuff. But I think it's a good idea to just like prioritize meat and cook with better oils, and then kind of try to learn, okay, I'm a little bit full now, I should stop eating, versus just like how much food can I stuff in my mouth for as little calories. And in general, animal proteins are going to be a lot more nutrient dense, so they just have more vitamins and minerals. So they're going to just be healthier for you. So you could actually eat less of them than other meats, or like even like proteins that are like beans and stuff. They just don't have the same amino acid profile that a meat would have. So because of that, you just don't get the same nutrients. So um, even though it's more calories, in my opinion, it's just healthier because, I mean, our bodies are not like a robot. It's not like if you're directly under like calories in, calories out, you're gonna um, like lose weight or get. I mean, even though that might be the case as far as like the weight, I think most people are concerned with like their body composition and losing fat in general. So I think that should be the main concern, is just getting in the quality foods. And maybe if you're trying to lose weight, you don't want to go excess butter too much, but I still think it's a good idea to just cook in um, animal fats.
Yeah, you hit on a couple topics there that I really want to dive deeper into, especially with like the counting calories craze. I know I've fallen victim to this and like I've experimented with counting calories and like neurotically tracking every single one. And for like a week or two that goes well, but then I start to like develop such a bad relationship with food because I'm treating food as like a number rather than like something
Mm.
that's supposed to fuel my body and give me energy and make me feel good. And then after like restricting calories for a week or two, like my willpower gives out, and then I end up like binging a whole pint of Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Like that's been
Yeah.
my experience with counting calories. And I know some people out there would say, yeah, you're just doing it wrong. Like there's better approaches. And that could definitely be true. But what I've noticed, and similar to you, is when I'm just focusing on like eating nutritious foods, like real nutrient dense foods, and monitoring my like satiation and my fullness levels, that's when I feel like I just naturally get leaner without even really thinking about the calories, right? And
Mm.
another big thing that I've been trying to do over the past couple of weeks, and like it's in big inspiration from your podcast and other people in the health Twitter space, dude, like mindfully eating, like really feeling like each bite and like feeling the fullness levels in your gut as you're eating. Because when you're just tracking calories, you're kind of just like mindlessly eating because you know it fits a certain range. But when each bite, you're kind of monitoring and you're asking yourself, like, okay, do I feel full? Like, yes or no. And then you keep eating based on that. That has been such a bigger thing for me. And I know there were, like, I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but there was a period of time for probably 2 or 3 years where I never didn't finish a plate of food because I don't know why. It's
Mm.
like some mental thing that I had to finish it. But now that I'm trying to be
Yeah.
more mindful as I'm eating, like last night I went out to dinner with like my family and I got like a
Mm.
personal pizza because we're at an Italian place. Maybe not great, but I didn't even eat the whole thing. And like that would be such a rare thing for me a couple years ago. But now that I'm practicing mindfulness, meditation, like studying Buddhism, all this stuff, it feels like it's
Yeah.
actually much better for my health. So I'm curious of your
Yeah.
experience with those type of topics.
As far as calorie counting goes, I think it kind of just sets you up to, like you said, have a relationship with food that's more numbers based than like how you're actually feeling. But for me, I always try to eat um, to like satiate, but then also have like respect for like the food. So like if you're eating a piece of meat, kind of understand that like that was another living being at one time, and it's not just a number for you to hit your 200 grams of protein. So I think that's a way to kind of have more respect for your food. As far as mindfully eating goes, obviously things like not looking at your phone or like not listening to like music or something um, that's like kind of just distracting you from your eating. I think that's a great practice for like mindfully eating, as well as like taking the time to actually cook your food. Because if you go out to eat and like takeout maybe, and you come back, you're just gonna scarf it down because you had no appreciation for all the work that went into processing it. But when you're cooking it and you took 45 minutes to cook it, you're not gonna then eat it in 1 minute. You're gonna like actually sit down and enjoy it. Or at least from my experience, that's what I felt. Um, but yeah, as far as not finishing a plate goes, I think there's like power, like in being able to like res- not restrict yourself, but understand I am full enough now and I am content. And I know if I eat a little bit more, it's not gonna like feel good after. And like I could take this home and there's a tomorrow where I'm gonna eat again. Because well, part of the thing is we as humans we evolved to pretty much scavenge food and then likely eat as much as we could because we knew we didn't know the next time we might grab food. So it's kind of like biologically hardwired into us to like want to eat a lot. And I think also carbs kind of make us more hungry in general. So like if you're eating a lot of carbs and sugar in general, you're just going to be more hungry and just I mean, I think we've all experienced it. Like you put a plate of steak, you could eat the steak, you'll eventually stop. But if you put a plate of steak and and a little bit of like fries or mashed potatoes on the side, you could eat this mashed potatoes, you could keep going all day. So I think carbs in general just contribute to hunger or to like not being satiated, if that makes sense.
Definitely. And I know we were talking before this call about how you're actually cutting out carbs right now. So, can you talk a little bit about this carnivore experience you got going on? Like, why did you try it? How are you feeling?
Yeah. So basically, I went to this conference in Nashville, and it was just all about um, kind of just like an alternative side to health. And a lot of the basis was on like animal proteins being the sole, not the basis of our diet, like wanting to have it in 70 to 80% um, of what we were eating. And personally, I already did like animal based, but I found that I was eating like too much honey and too much fruit. And like eventually it would getting to the point where I was getting like hooked on honey. Like I mean honey has a lot of sugar in it. And even though it's technically a health food and whatnot, um, for me it was just getting to the point where I was literally becoming a sugar addict. Like I was just like loading up on too much honey. Um, and I had someone on my podcast who reversed a lot of like conditions with the carnivore diet, and I heard Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson on the carnivore diet, and I just heard so many people that had great experiences on it. And for me personally, I kind of struggle with being too food focused in general because I love to like cook and I love to like I just love food in general, but um, I just want to try it out and just see how it goes. So I'm on day 6 right now out of a month of trying to do it, and it's definitely changed my relationship with food because, um, I mean, it's only 6 days in, but just the satiation you feel from eating meat is a little bit different. And then I just feel it like I don't need to eat more. Like I've had enough meat. Like the meat tells me like, okay, you've had enough. Because like I don't know, you can't just gorge on meat. Like eventually you're going to be done. So I don't think that's sustainable for everyone. I don't think everyone should try it, but just for a month, I'm trying to experiment and see how it goes. So yeah.
I think it's cool that you're trying to experiment. Like, why not? Right? Like, people have had really good success with it. And some people like push it too much as propaganda and then they try to like sell meal plans based on it and like make money off of it, which I don't necessarily agree with. But I think experimenting and seeing how you feel on it, like, that's great. I actually tried it last school year after listening to that same Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson interview. And I was like, Joe Rogan was talking about how he tried it and how he felt like amazing. He just shed body fat. And I decided to try it too. I did it for like, I think 2.5 or 3 weeks. I was going to do a month and I cracked. So I'm curious if you're going to
Really?
last. Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of like another ground beef. Like I
Yeah.
actually went to the store. I got some venison and some ground lamb. So hopefully it'll be a little bit different, but it's like so much ground beef. It's like, all right, like enough.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
because you're doing it at home and you're like shopping and getting good stuff, it'll be easier. I was doing it in like the school dining hall. So I was literally eating
Oh no.
like lunch meat, like probably processed garbage lunch meat. Like that was it.
Hmm.
And just trying to like only eat meat for 2.5 weeks. But I did feel super energized and I did shed like it seemed like I shed like 5 pounds of body weight. Um,
Yeah.
maybe because I wasn't eating as enough, maybe yeah, but the one downside to it, I'm curious if you're going to experience this. Like when you don't have any fiber in your system,
Yeah,
like at
dude.
first your asshole doesn't know what to do, bro. Like your digestive system can be fucked. So I know for like the first 5 or so days for me, it was like a bit rough not having any fiber in there. Like it was pure. Yeah, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but that is the only downside I saw from doing this carnivore.
I haven't experienced too much like bad stuff in that aspect. More so just like I had just been like constipated and just like not even like having to go to the bathroom at all.
Interesting.
So it hasn't been that bad, and I could already start to feel like my belly just kind of going away. Just like you could kind of feel like um, just slimming down, a little bit of body fat gone, and I've definitely noticed like in my back, I was kind of like I don't know, it just feels like it's like loosening up if that makes sense. I don't know if you felt that, but
Definitely. And something I notice a lot is when I have too much processed carbs, especially, but carbs in general and alcohol, like, so I've had 3 surgeries. I've had both my shoulders repaired and my knee. And so whenever I eat a lot of
yeah.
carbs, my knee and joints just swell up and they hurt. Like they literally hurt. And so I noticed when I
Mhm.
did carnivore, like I felt like I had no inflammation at all. And
Yeah.
that might be exactly what you're experiencing with your back.
I think that's what it is because just in general, my whole body feels like more loose, and it might be partially like inflammation down, but it also might be like just losing a little bit of weight, losing a little bit of body fat. And I haven't been like I've been trying to eat as much as I can because I was actually feeling like a little bit irritable like earlier this afternoon. I had some like beef jerky because I was like, I need something. Like, I don't know, just like you can't, it's like hard to like not eat enough to, it's hard to eat enough food to like actually sustain when you're eating just meat because it's like you need to eat more. Like, I don't know.
Right, because if you're having like let's say 2 pounds of beef, for example, like you're gonna hit your 200 grams
Mhm.
of protein. Your protein's good, but calories
Yeah.
wise, like what does that come out to? You're probably like maybe around 2,000, maybe a bit more if you're cooking in
Yeah.
butter and oil. I don't know. Are you still cooking in those things even when you're doing carnivore?
Yeah. So for carnivore, so right now for me, I'm doing like there's like obviously like ranges to like carnivore, like the amount of like strictness you really want to follow. And I just decided I was gonna do like all meats and then cook in you cook in butter because like that's an animal product. But I haven't gotten any like tallow or ghee or anything like that because my family hasn't had it. But I've just been cooking in like normal butter. But I've been doing like butter, eggs, like I got some bacon, so that's good just to mix it up, tastes good, and then beef pretty much. I haven't gotten any chicken or pork, but or I guess I got the bacon, but other than that, it's just been mostly beef because that's what I prefer anyway. So yeah.
What does your family think of you trying all this?
Mm, I tried to convince them to try it out for with me, but they didn't want to. They think it's like definitely interesting, but I've always eaten like a more like animal-based approach as far as the amount of meat I ate was always like pretty high, and now it's just I'm not eating any carbs. So they kind of know that like I went to this health thing last week, and they know like this is like stuff I care about and I just want to try it. So they're open to the idea of doing it or of me doing it, but they don't want to do it themselves. Maybe after if I like have a crazy transformation or something. But I was trying to get my youngest brother to try it out with me and he's like he's finishing up school right now, so he's like I want to finish that and then I'll try it. And I was like, "Oh, maybe." Because I think it's very powerful for getting a better relationship with food because you no longer have the pleasure really. Like I still love meat, but the pleasure of digging into like a piece of fruit or like I don't know, something sweet is just not there. So it's like you're really eating for like nutrition and eating and getting a better relationship with when you're actually full and when you're hungry because a lot of times we're just bored and we just go downstairs, let me just go into the pantry and see what's up. And it's like you're not going to do that when it's just meat. So, yeah.
It's a great exercise to just build mental toughness and discipline too. Like if you can stick to it for a month, and I think you definitely will be able to. But even if you don't, it's still impressive to try it for a couple weeks. But just that
Yeah.
just builds that discipline muscle because I think a lot of times with food, and I definitely am guilty of this, like we treat it as entertainment, like it's a dopamine hit, right? But in reality, our brains are wired to make it like that for us so that we eat more and so we stay full and satiated. But at the same time, like that can definitely be abused. And I think what a lot of these food companies have done is they've literally turned food into entertainment, right? Like you're not just going to McDonald's to get like, for a kid, you're not just going to McDonald's to get like a burger and fries. You're getting a Happy Meal with like a toy and all this stuff, and they make it entertainment. And now that I know all this about food and health and like what is this doing to kids, it kind of disgusts me, to be completely honest. And just especially like the rising obesity rates in children. I saw this stat. It was like the average, I think it was the average 2-year old now, over 50% are projected to be obese by like the year 2035. And like just
Mm.
statistics like that just kind of terrify me. But then I have a little bit of hope because I meet people like you and all these people on the other side of the internet who are pushing for all these holistic health things. But I guess what I wanted to try to get into a little bit was you went from somebody who wasn't prioritizing your health to now fully on the other end of the spectrum. Like your health knowledge and nutrition knowledge is off the charts. So what sparked that change for you?
I think initially for me, it was recognizing that food and exercise and sleep are all just like so important and like contribute to like your mental health. I always thought that your physical body was more so just let me just get a six pack so that like I look good at the beach or whatever. But I kind of realized that because I felt so depressed at this time, like 4 years ago or 5 years ago or so, and I treated my body horribly for 18 years. So I kind of recognized that there was a reason why I didn't feel good. And like, there's a reason why I didn't like, I felt anxious. There's a reason why I didn't look the way I wanted to or didn't. I mean, for me, I have a lot of regrets from like being in high school. Like I was 6'3", didn't play any sports because I was just out of shape, lazy, ate horribly, didn't exercise. So for me, it's always like health is something that I think everyone innately has. Like you were like it is not if you just don't eat it for anything, like your body will return to homeostasis and you will get back to being the way that we were meant to be, which is like healthy and thriving and enjoying life. And I think we just miss out on that because we're eating these things that are horrible for us. Um, and doing these behaviors like I mean I guess it's not technically like I mean it is health behavior, but like being addicted to your phone, it's like I don't know, just being outside. There's different aspects to it where I think, but to get back to your original point about how I got into it, it started with incremental changes like getting my sleep in order, cutting out food that I knew was horrible for me, and then moving more. And once I started to see some progress with my body and my mental health, I just realized there's a lot more to this. And then when I realized too that big food, like the companies that have all this stuff in the middle of the aisles of the grocery stores, they're the ones who are lobbying um, the Food and Drug Administration to make the food pyramid. It says you need 12 like servings of grains a day. And it's like it's made by those companies who are then giving us the guidelines. And then those guidelines that we're following are making us fat and obese and depressed and anxious, which we're then going to have to go to a doctor and get Prozac or whatever med. And it's like we're asking our doctors, what do we have to do? What do we have to do? And it's like, no, we just need to do this other route, which is, I don't know. My view is eat meat, eat healthy, move your body more, get in the sun more, do these natural things. I'm not saying that can be eliminated with all conditions because I know some people like have really bad suffering, but it's easy for me to be passionate about it because for myself, I know how I used to feel and I know that I can make more impact now and have a better life for like my family, like my future kids and everything. And even the way I show up with my own family now is I have a way better relationship with my mom since we both lost weight. I have a way better relationship with some of my friends, like just being more present because when you are overweight and you don't feel good, you just have shame and you don't want to express love to everyone else. So that's why I just think health is a lever where once you have that in place, you can start to go into the other things you actually truly care about. So yeah.
Dude, that's powerful stuff. Like as you were talking, I was feeling this like emotion in me, especially when you talk about like the scenario of how the big food companies make this food pyramid, then they push on you to eat all these grains, and then people eat them, and then they get
Mm,
fat, sick, they have diseases. Then they go to big pharma and they get drugs. It it actually makes me feel a bit angry that like this is happening behind the scenes and just so many people are oblivious to it. But I think we're on a good path, like that you and I are so young and that we're talking about this stuff and we're aware of it. And
mm,
like I'm trying to educate my parents on it too now, and like they're trying to take their health really seriously. Um, and I think you're doing the same. But yeah, like
mm.
talk about what it means to you, like to have established that weight loss journey, not only with yourself but with your mom, because that was a great Twitter thread you wrote about your journey with her. So talk about like what that
Thank you.
process was like and what that meant to you.
Yeah, it was definitely a good thread for me to get out because I just wanted to get off my chest. But it definitely meant a lot because me and my mom were always overweight ever since we were little, and like I don't know. I just remember being young and like going to the dentist, and then after the dentist, we like hit up McDonald's, and that was like our kind of form of pleasure, just like go get a snack. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing because I'm sure like some people are able to regulate it, but I think there's some of us, and me and my mom both believe it, where like we're kind of like driven to food. Like some people just don't really find that much pleasure from food in general, but me and my mom and even my grandfather passed away, but he had the same thing where he would literally, if he got like super anxious as well, he would eat too much food. And I don't know, just that was kind of something we like both like have. So like to be able to overcome that together, it meant a lot to me. And then also just for my mom to do it at such a like, I'm not saying she's old, but like she's 60 years old or I believe right now, but like before the last like 4 years, she treated her body horribly. I mean, she would say it. She didn't care about her health at all, and she was on the borderline of like having type 2 diabetes. So to be able to like overturn that through sure like riding the Peloton every day, like making her own food and just like cooking at home and stuff, it like means a lot because it was like I was on the journey with her trying to lose weight, and I don't know, there was like days where like I just like felt like shit because like when you're losing weight, it's just like not that fun. Like you don't feel too good, at least in the beginning phases. But I mean, it definitely meant a lot because I mean, just in general, doing something with someone else and obviously with your family, it's just great to get in shape together. So yeah, great.
That's amazing. And I love how the bonding experience turned from like the McDonald's to like trying to get in good health. And,
Yeah,
as you were talking about that, I was thinking like, I did the exact same thing with my mom and sister. Every time we'd go to the dentist as kids, we'd go get McDonald's. That was just like a fun thing to do.
yeah,
Um, I think maybe I don't know, maybe it's genetics, maybe it's because I was such an active kid, but that never caught up with me. Like dude, I would eat so much McDonald's as a kid. I remember after every high school football game, we'd all go to McDonald's after the football games, like the whole school, and I would get 5 cheeseburgers, a large fry, and a large milkshake. But like I never
yeah,
gained a pound somehow because I think I was so
yeah,
active. But then what's interesting is when I got into college and I started to get injured a lot in football and I wasn't moving around as much and I still didn't really know about health or nutrition. I was just eating how I'd always been eating. Then I started to see the weight gain and I was like, whoa, like I thought I was immune to this. But
yeah.
tying it back full circle, like with you and your mom, that 4 year journey is a crazy journey. And I'm curious, how are you both able to stay consistent throughout the process? Whereas a lot of people that start on a weight loss journey, they seem to lose 10 pounds and then they fall off, or they hit a goal and they go back to the start. So, how have you maintained this throughout the entire time?
Well, for me, I always was able to maintain it just because once I got off the weight, I just felt so much better that I was like, all right, I can't go back to eating the way I used to eat or just any of the behaviors I used to do. But part of it for me was it wasn't just the weight loss, but it was like multiple habits that were changed at the same time. So like around the end of high school, when I started losing weight, um, like but prior to the weight loss, I was sleeping horribly. I was like really addicted to video games and smoking weed. So it was like all those things were stacked on top of each other to kind of make the person that was inclined to like just not care about their health and not care about their sleep and just eat whatever. So once I was on the other direct, and I will say that like porn addiction was a huge factor in like my drive just being on the gutter. Like, so all of those things I think contribute to like a life of just like shame, anxiety, depression, and just not having any drive to like get your health in order because you're just doing bad behaviors for your health. So once I was able to get on the other side of things and realize, oh, I go to bed at 10:30 and I wake up at 7 and now I feel good and I can go to the gym and I can then make a meal after and feel good. And it's like before I was like, oh, I need the pleasure from smoking weed and playing video games and staying up late. And now it's like going towards something beneficial. So once I was able to get pleasure out of the things that were helping my health, I was able to do that. And for my mom, she actually lost weight, I believe, like years ago, and then literally like put it back on and then lost it back. But now she's on her journey. So um, for her, I think it's just staying consistent with what she's doing. And now that this is the first time that she's ever got to like the weight that she actually wants to be at, if that makes sense. So I think she's just going to continue from here. But like me, she also has implemented like the Peloton, and now she's doing tennis and she has friends who are doing it. So it's like a whole lifestyle thing as far as you don't just go to the gym and just like, if you don't have the infrastructure behind it as far as doing it on a daily basis, like you might change for like a few weeks, but because I know some people don't have to lose the 50 pounds that I lost, they may only have to lose 10 pounds. But I think for like a sustainable lifestyle, you really need to like switch your whole habits around. And you don't have to care about it as much as I do. You could still like go out and drink, literally like eat. I'm not saying you have to be like completely dialed, but it's more so just what do you do 90% of the time, like you said before.
Yeah, I think that's great stuff. And I want to commend you as well for like talking so openly and honestly and vulnerably about like those past addictions and behaviors because I've had very similar experiences with everything you said. And it's been something that you keep back because it's very shameful to talk about. But I
Yeah.
often notice when I put those things out in the open, they lose power over me. And like I'm less and less inclined to actually engage in those behaviors. But something else I've noticed is like when I cut out 90% of the cheap dopamine from all those things you said porn, video games, weed, junk food, all that the good behaviors actually start to become fun. And so
Mhm.
I'm curious for you now that like you've taken this complete 180 and now you're just on all these good behaviors and good habits like throughout that process did you completely abstain from any of that stuff or was it like sometimes you'd slip back or was it like a gradual waning off of these things?
I guess it would probably depend on which individual thing you're talking about. For me, sleep was the like essence of like what made me start to get healthy, which for most men, I think in general, or just like most people, they don't really like care about sleep. But for me, I recognized how bad I was sleeping and like so like irregular and having to wake up at like 6 a.m. to go to school. I remember days where I would be up until 2:30 on my phone. I had to sleep for 4 hours. And it's like, how does anyone expect to function at like that level? And I just always thought like who gives? Like I could just like I'm waking up, like I'm fine. Like, who cares? Like, I just didn't want to listen to anyone else. So for me, sleep, once I got those 8 hours in, felt like so much better because one of the things you don't realize is if you don't sleep 8 hours or like at least like 7 hours normally, your like ghrelin signals for hunger are higher and like you're just more prone to like eat more. And obviously you're just tired too. But so yeah, so for me, sleep has always been a thing where like I mean, at times, like I would sacrifice a social life just because that was like something that was important to me was like being able to sleep um, at like a reasonable hour. And then as far as food goes, like I try not to eat out just because for me, it's less about the food that I'm intaking as far as it being unhealthy. And it's more about I really care about like the sourcing of the meat and stuff like that. That's like something I care about is just that the fact that there's like feedlots and like there's animals that are just like suffering from it. So I'm really passionate about just like supporting like local farmers and stuff just because like they're good people and like um it's better meat obviously and like better nutrition. And then on the so yeah, I've always like kind of not gone out to eat like fast food as much really. Obviously I've like had Chipotle bowls and Chick-fil-A from here and there, but over the past year I would say like I really haven't eaten out too much besides like going out to eat for a restaurant. And then on the exercise routine, I kind of like have always just continued to exercise just because I feel good like doing it. Just like lifting feels good, and I have kind of like plateaued, I would say, for the last like year, just because I don't know, I just like went in and kind of just like went through the motions. So I'm like in the process right now of trying to figure out something new because I tried out jujitsu. It was pretty fun, but I don't have a gym here that I like know about yet, and I'm kind of trying to find that next thing that gets me going. I've I did CrossFit today and Monday, so I'm on 2 days of it. But I could already feel just like I want to do something where it's like community based because I've kind of lacked that community like feel where I've just been like lifting on my own, like self improvement on my own, and it's not fun. Like it's fun to be around people. Like you want to be around the people that are trying to do good stuff for their health too. So I'm kind of on that journey right now, trying to find an exercise routine I could stick to that also benefits me socially. So
I think that's a great idea. And I've fallen into that too. Like when you're just lifting on your own, you end up like going through the motions, you know, your energy can be kind of low. But something that I'm trying to do at home is like I got a bunch of friends who are home, who I've known my whole life.
hmm
And so I'm trying to like set up times to lift with them. It just raises the energy.
yeah,
You're talking in between sets. It's like
100%.
I'm not gonna skip out on my last two reps if my friend who I've known since I was 10 years old is watching me. Like I can't
Yeah,
do that. But if I'm by myself, I might be more inclined to do it. Um,
yeah.
but in terms of like finding other activities, that's something that I've also been struggling a bit with, especially after like stopping playing sports. So I tried the jujitsu for like a day. I decided not to
hmm
continue just because people are yanking on your arms and everything all the time. And,
Yeah,
call me soft, but
understandable.
I've had like my shoulders repaired and I just don't want them to get pulled out again. I've just been through that too many times. But the CrossFit stuff
hmm
seems interesting. Not sure if I'd be too interested in it, but maybe I should give it a shot. But yeah, I think that community aspect is so key. So maybe
hmm
we can dive a little bit into that, like the other things that make up a holistic, healthy lifestyle, like community, like sunlight,
hmm
like nature, like movement. So how are you trying to incorporate those things in your life? Like what are the lifestyle habits or traits that you try to build in to like be at your best both physically and mentally, aside from just the nutrition and diet? Because I know we were on that for a while.
Yeah. Well, yeah, pretty much all the ones you said, but I love to get in the sun as much as I can. I was kind of spoiled because I was in Arizona and like it's just so much easier to get in the sun when it like is hot and feels good. And like I here in Connecticut, there's a bunch of trees that are always blocking the sun. Um, and obviously it's just like cloudy more often, whereas Arizona is just always nice sun. So I was a little spoiled with that. But yeah, as far as other holistic stuff, I think meditation is very important. Um, to just do that however much you can do it, but trying to be mindful of um, just like slowing down for a bit, I think is good in like the age that we're in of just everyone kind of going fast paced. But nature in general is just something where detach from the phone, get outside in nature, and then obviously if you could stack that with some exercise. I'm trying to think of like other things that are really I think like reading is important or just like writing, like some sort of like skill building, I think is important for mental health. Um, like I know you're big on flow in general, but just being able to like do something that's like a skill that you're not thinking about it as much and you're just because I think a lot of people's work, they just don't ever get into that flow state. So if you can't do that in your work, then you want to probably try to do that, whether it be chess or going for a run or shooting hoops or something like that, walking your dog, just being able to like kind of detach from like just thinking about your worries and stuff and getting out of your head. So yeah, I think nature, sun, winding down as well. I think at night is a very important thing because a lot of us um, we just don't have an effective wind down to like get ready for rest. So because of that, we're just like on our phones, just like watching TV or something. And I think it's very important, like at night, whether it be a journaling practice, reading, or just something to like slow your body down. Not only is it beneficial to sleep, but I just think it's good for your mental health.
Yeah, let's dive a bit deeper into like this wind down routine because this is something I've struggled with, and I notice the days where like I skip out on the nightly routine that I want to do,
Hmm.
I have such a harder time getting into flow state the next day, getting out of bed, and it just spirals and it makes everything harder. But when I can nail like a consistent nightly routine, I feel so much better the next day when I wake up. But I think a lot of people, like you said, like you're kind of mindlessly watching Netflix, you're mindlessly watching sports, and these things aren't necessarily bad. But I think there's probably healthier behaviors to do that would benefit you more in the long run. So what are like what's your nightly routine look like? What are some practices that you'd love to do to make you feel good before you go to bed?
I think the main thing or the initial starting point is it's really good to have a bedtime that you can stick to within like roughly 30 minutes of the set time because that's just going to allow you to get to sleep like at a reasonable hour and just like fall asleep when you actually get into bed and be tired because our bodies function on this 24-hour circadian clock. So if you were going to bed Monday through Friday at 10 p.m. and then you decide I'm gonna go out on the weekends and you stay out until 1 a.m., it's essentially jet lagging your body by 3 hours without having to actually travel. You're just jet lagging yourself. So I think it's important if that's something you're like, if you care about your health, to try to stick to like 30 minutes of like a set time. And then from there, I like to just kind of like reverse engineer it. So our ancestors would normally go to bed normally like an hour or so like after the sun went down. So I think it's pretty advantageous to go to bed earlier, but that's just the way I like to operate because I also work better in the morning. So, but say you pick 11 p.m. for your bedtime, I normally like to give myself at least an hour where there's no phone in the last hour, and during that time, I will meditate, stretch, read, journal. I don't really have like a set like thing. I kind of just whatever like feels right for me. Sometimes I'll literally just lay on the ground and just do nothing. Like I'll just think. Like just think about what I want to do the next day. Like
I
I feel like
love
it's just
that.
so important to like detach for just like a little bit of time. Um and then if you feel like ambitious, maybe like extend it out to like an hour 30 or 2 hours. And I think it's just getting off of your phone is literally so advantageous for like your health in general, just because, and also when you're doing that, you're not eating before bed, which is an important thing for me because I think I'm pretty sure it's like if you eat within the last like 2 to 3 hours before bed, you're still digesting your food when you go off to sleep. So I don't think there's like a set protocol for everyone. I also like to take a excessively warm shower or like a bath um, in the nighttime. It'll like get you like really hot on the outside, but your inside will start to cool off. So that'll help with sleep because your body temperature needs to drop by 2 degrees for you to like go to sleep. So if you're not in a cool environment, you're probably not able to fall asleep, and that'll just like speed up the process. Um, so yeah, those are a few of the things I like to do. Also,
Good
there's like
stuff.
some supplements you could take, like magnesium is a good one. Um, trying to think, I like a chamomile tea or something like that is good.
Is it necessary to take the magnesium like within a certain time range before you go to sleep? Because I've normally been taking it like with my supplements throughout like in the morning or even in the middle of the day. So
Mhm.
is that not like optimal?
Well, part of the thing with magnesium, I'm pretty sure, is that we always would have had it because it would have been in our water. But because our water just like lacks like the nutrients or whatever, believe it's a nutrient. I don't know if it's a vitamin, but I think it's a nutrient or electrolyte or something. It used to just be in our water, so we would naturally have a supply of it. But I'm pretty sure like a Huberman protocol is like I believe it's magnesium like biglycinate or like threonate, and that specific kind of magnesium like gets like into your brain So if you're able to take that like within like 90 minutes to an hour before you go to sleep, it like will like help you fall asleep, but it'll kind of like make you sleepy. And I'm not like religious about doing that. But I think like any sort of magnesium in general probably is gonna just help because it magnesium helps with like a lot of like just natural like body function. So I'm sure it helps with sleep. So if you really want to get advantageous and get that for like before sleep, maybe when you are looking to get a really good night's sleep, I think it would help to take it in the night, but I don't think it's like the end all be all.
Gotcha. Yeah, I love your nightly routine. How you don't actually really have a routine. You just turn the phone off, and then you end up doing good behaviors anyways. And I've actually heard J.K. Molina talk about this. Like within an hour of when he wants to go to sleep, he turns the electricity off in his house. So then,
That's
like,
smart.
you just end up doing the good things that you want to do anyways because there's no other choice. My problem is I turn off my phone, I turn it on airplane mode, but I have an iPad. And so I end up like watching YouTube on my iPad, and it's like I know that's not great,
Yeah,
but I love it. Um and it's
yeah,
tough because like you could be perfect with this stuff. You could be super neurotic about it, but I think it's like the 80-20 rule. If you're doing good behaviors most of the time, like that other
yeah,
20% isn't going to make too much of a difference. Um, but something else
yeah.
that
I
I
feel
know.
like
Oh yeah, no, go ahead.
I just wanted to say like one of the main reasons why like I care so much about that and just like I like am kind of like neurotic about my nightly routine is because I was wearing a Whoop and I'm not wearing it right now just because I was just kind of like I've already like felt every like I know if I do this I get this score, if I drink alcohol I'm gonna get this score, if I have a good night's sleep I'm gonna get this score, so I kind of just got rid of it, not wearing it anymore. But I've tracked over like 500 recoveries on there, and I know like what no matter what, sorry, I know exactly like how the effect's gonna be based on what I do. So like I can eat. So one of the main factors is like eating clean. Like if you eat like junk food or something, you will actually have a worse night's sleep. If you eat more like than you probably should, you'll have a bad night's sleep. Obviously, if you like drink alcohol, it's going to absolutely wreck your sleep, and give you like no REM sleep. But things like going on your phone would literally like drastically increase the or decrease the score I would have, or even just like eating a meal like 30 minutes before bed. So I think for me, it was just that fact that like I look at the score the next day and it's like down, like, oh, I got to bed at a reasonable hour, but I only had a 55% recovery. And it was like because I was looking at my phone. Um, so yeah, that's just, it's something where like I saw the actual impacts, like with the numbers, like my heart rate variability, my resting heart rate, and stuff like that, that it made me like really change. So that's why I think that's something I'm really into.
That makes complete sense. And the interesting thing with these devices, it's kind of like the curse of knowledge because if you weren't tracking it and you just like woke up and you didn't know if you actually recovered good or not, like you could just convince yourself that you're good. But if you're literally seeing a
Yeah.
number like you had horrible sleep, like did that go to your head and would it actually like fuck up the next day for you?
Yeah. Like I was kind that's why I don't really wear it anymore is because like I know I can genuinely like if I go out and drink alcohol tomorrow, I'm gonna get like a 1% recovery score. And it's
Mm.
like it's a joke. Like drinking alcohol absolutely wrecks your sleep. But yeah, in general, sometimes like I would think I like sometimes if you like exert yourself really hard, like you have like a day where you maybe like go for a run, work out, and just have a lot of like movement for the day, you'll have a lower recovery score in general. And then it is a good idea to maybe not push it that hard the next day. But if the next day you have a game or something like that, or like you were planning on having a workout, or like you had an interview, it's like, am I really gonna like think that I slept bad even though I feel good? So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the reason, one of the reasons why I stopped wearing it. Even though it gives you that data, it kind of messes with your head. So
Mhm.
I think it's good for people to learn about their sleep, but I don't think it's like necessarily like you need to be wearing it for the rest of your life. The same goes for like tracking calories. Like I think it's good to track calories and look at nutrition labels because then you know how much is an actual serving of meat or how much like how much protein's actually in this, but like, or how much, you know what I'm saying? But like, you don't need to do it for the rest of your life. But like, once you have a rough idea, then you can kind of be more informed when you make decisions.
Yeah, and with the Whoop, it's like a subscription model, right? Like you don't pay for the band one time up front.
Yeah, the band's free, and then the entry level, I think they have is a 6 month plan. It's like around $30 a month or something like that. And then they have like 12 months to longer. But yeah, that's one of the things with it. It's like I almost wanted at one time to just be like, give me it for like $500 so I never have to pay again. But I'm actually probably happy now because I'm like, I'm not
Yeah.
even wearing it. And I'm still paying for the subscription now, but I'm actually not wearing it because I'm just like, I don't want to wear a band on my hands. I was getting a horrible tan line, and I already know how the sleep's gonna affect me. So I'm just like, fuck it. I'm not gonna wear it. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that, but I'm not wearing it.
No, you can say whatever you want. It's all good. It's interesting because I was literally just lifting with a friend at the gym before this podcast, and he was talking about how he wants to get a Whoop. And now that you're talking
Yeah.
about it, I'm kind of intrigued. I know I would
Hmm.
probably like get somewhat neurotic about like all the things that are contributing to like my horrible recovery days. But at the same time, I think that would be so good to know because like dude, for example, last night I went out to dinner with family, like I told you, and I had like two drinks, which to me, that doesn't seem very bad. But
Yeah.
I probably slept like shit. And this morning,
Yeah.
my alarm went off at 6 o'clock, and I haven't snoozed in like 2 weeks. And I hit snooze today, and I slept for like another 2 hours. And it's like it all
Yeah.
stems back to that decision to have a couple drinks the night before. And so I feel like if I got this Whoop, it would tell me like so much detail what I shouldn't be doing, and like
Yeah.
that would actually improve your decision making because now you're so aware of it.
Mm. I mean, yeah, I think it definitely makes you aware. But now, if you want to be like a human, it's like
Yeah,
obviously like it depends on what kind of person you are. Because if you're gonna be the kind of person that's gonna like feel bad, like maybe you got a bad recovery score, are you gonna wake up and now be like, all right, my day's chalked? Or are you just gonna be like, whatever, like let me just keep going about your day? So I think it's like whatever you make of it, but it's definitely good to get those numbers because then you could realize like, oh, I even though it was just one drink or two drinks, it really did like make like a huge impact on my sleep. And I think that's one of the things with alcohol in general that like I pretty much don't really drink that much anymore. And it's because I just I know it's going to be bad for me like health wise. Like it's just I don't know. It's just like and then at the same time, like every time. So once I kind of cut out like getting like completely drunk, I was just like I would drink like one or two drinks, and then I was just like, if I'm not like completely drunk, is it even that fun just to like have one or
yeah,
two drinks? Like I guess sometimes it is like at a special occasion, but like a lot of the times I noticed I would just drink just because like the peer pressure of like everyone else getting one and stuff. So it's like I don't know. Also, the other thing with Whoop is that it's really good at tracking your workouts. So like if you're like like weightlifting or something, there's like a score on there for your like or any exercise in general. So you can really know like at the end of it, did I push myself or not? Like how much calories did I burn? Like what's my heart rate looking like? Um, and then even just like steps throughout the day. It doesn't actually track your steps, but like it has a running tally of your calories, so you know like around how many calories you burn. It's not completely accurate, but
very interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna look into
yeah,
this a little bit more. I actually might buy it because it's like an investment in your
yeah,
health, and it's an investment in your own knowledge about your health. And even if you're gonna
hmm,
stop using it after 6 months, now you have the knowledge of like, okay, this is what this food does to my body. This is what one beer does to my body, and that'll help you make
yeah.
such better decisions for the rest of your life. Something else you
It's
just
also
talked
like
about. Yeah, yeah.
it's also like trained to you specifically. So like your score will
Mm,
be like reflect like so I think it's like the first like week or two or something like that. You don't um you don't have a recovery score. So it is like programming to you and then
mm.
after that you get a score. So like they kind of like establish a baseline. So it's kind of interesting because it's like if those 2 weeks you're like going out and drinking and then like you don't drink after, like your scores are going to be like higher if that makes sense. Like if it's basing your baseline off of you like being drunk, it's like I don't know, it's like basing in like a bad recovery on the baseline, you know? So it's I think it's good to just like live your life like normally for those 2 weeks, but it's definitely interesting because like the data is just, I mean, like you get knowledge from like knowing what you're doing to your body. So
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff how much you can really track everything. Like the only thing I really track
yeah.
right now is my step count, and that's just on my phone, like through the health app. And I know that we're both like super big into walking. So I want to ask like
Mhm.
kind of a broad question about it. Like, what does walking like mean to you?
uh, I don't even know. I mean, mainly like I feel like walking is just it's an easy way to like check off like 5 boxes, but it's not like I don't know. It's just like for me, it's like I go for a meal, I go for a walk. I go for like I wake up in the morning, I go for a walk. So it's kind of like it's kind of just ingrained into like an excuse to get outside and like breathe fresh air. And then I don't know, I just like to like listen to an audiobook or listen to like a YouTube video or something. So I think it's really like encompassing just like the whole like healthy lifestyle in general, just being able to bake in these walks like into your life. I was actually before we got on the podcast, I was kind of just like chilling here, and then when you told me you were on a walk, I was like, I might as well go for one, just because like I got like 45 minutes, but I don't know. I think it's good to just steps in general outside is just like super powerful because like we don't need to be inside all day. So obviously, there's people that work in a office for 8 hours and stuff, but like if you have the luxury to like go out for a walk, you really should be doing as much as you can. And I don't really know like the science about like sitting, but like I just know that like if you're sitting, like your butt and like back are just getting tight, and like you're not most people are not sitting in a good posture in general, so it's just like it's just it's making everything tight. You're just not like you have actual energy like stored in your body, so when you move around you start to like it kind of like flows in and out, if that makes sense. Like a lot of times, like you'll notice if you just go for a walk, like you'll start to like think differently, or just like you might be depressed and then like or sad, the correct word, little emotional, but then you go for a walk and it just goes away. So I think it's definitely a good thing to do. But to answer what it means to me, I don't know. It seems like it's too deep. I don't know.
It might be a little bit deep for the topic
Yeah.
of walking, but I ask because for me it checks off so many boxes, like you just said. Like it gets me steps, which is great, burning calories, right? I'm walking with my shirt off and I'm getting sunlight, like my testosterone's raising. I'm just getting all these great benefits from that, from the
Yeah.
sunlight. I'm also listening to a podcast or like on a phone call with a friend, and like those things mean so much to me too. So yeah, I guess I'm curious, like, what are your go tos for these walks? Like, what are you listening to?
I like listening to podcasts in general. Um, yeah, podcasts normally. Sometimes I'll do a YouTube video, but most of the time it's like a podcast. Occasionally, like I like doing like well, in the morning when I walk, I don't ever listen to anything. So it's like kind of like a form of meditation. And then same thing on like at night normally, I just don't listen to anything. I just try to like be like present. And I think it's a really good like I don't know what the correct term is, but it's like a way for me to gauge like my mental state, if that makes sense. Because if I go for a walk and like it's not like I just want to get back to the house, it's like okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's a sign like you're not being present. But if I'm like able to appreciate the walk, then it's like oh, okay, like you're actually like you're feeling good, you're just enjoying life and not taking yourself too seriously. So I like to do that to just like gauge like kind of like how I'm feeling. But most of the time if I'm going for a walk in the middle of the day, I like listening to podcasts. I also like taking calls on my like um like if I'm just like talking to someone, I'll just go outside, go for a walk. Um yeah, so pretty much all, like mostly podcasts though. I just got Audible, so I'm starting to try to do that again. But I didn't have Audible before that for like a decent amount of time, so it was mostly just podcasts for me.
I love the different thing, like different approaches to the walks. Like I do the same thing, middle of the day, I'm listening to something or like you're talking to people on the phone. But going on those walks with no inputs, those are sometimes the most important. Like you give your
Mhm.
mind that like literal space. Like think about it when you're inside, like you kind of have this like eminent permeating claustrophobia, and you're like your mind is kind of boxed in, right? Because you're inside a box.
Yeah.
And when you're outside, like you're able to think outside the box because you're literally like in this expansive place. And so I notice when I go on these walks and I don't listen to anything, like I'll come up with the craziest ideas that I never would have had if
Yeah.
I was just sitting inside. And so I was reading a couple books lately talking about the importance of going on these walks. Two books. So first was Rest, and the second one is Flow. And in the book Rest, it talks about a couple of different things in terms of walking, like how these great thinkers, great writers, great philosophers, great scientists, they would spend hours a day just walking about, like just thinking, literally just thinking and
Yeah.
exploring. And they were able to come up with like new great ideas because they gave their mind that space. Another thing was like they did a test. I think they did a study. So they had four groups, and I might be butchering this a bit, but one group was sitting inside, another group was sitting outside, the third group was walking inside on the treadmill, and the fourth group was walking outside, like in the open air. And they
Mhm.
did a creativity test, or like some type of creativity test. And the group who was walking outside had the highest scores by far. And the group
Yeah.
that was walking inside had the second highest scores. The group who was sitting in outside had the third, and then the group who was sitting inside had the lowest creativity and brain functioning scores. And I just find it fascinating because if you look at the typical work week for most people, it's 8 hours a day inside. And I'm like, imagine how much higher our output and creativity could be as a society if people were outside more, walking around, and more in their natural state. It feels so
Mhm.
unnatural to me to be sitting inside under artificial lights when we're literally meant to be walking around outside. So I wonder if in the future, like now with these new Apple glasses, like those came out yesterday, and like maybe we'll be able to be working while literally walking around in a forest or something like that. Like imagine the creativity
Yeah.
there.
I mean, I didn't really I would have thought that sitting outside would be better than walking inside, but I think that's something that just proves the point about like walking in general, just like the forward movement. I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure there's some sort of like mental process that happens. If I had to guess, it's something like along the lines of like when you were like hunting or like in the woods or something, you're walking around somewhere, like you had to be like on point versus just sitting down. But I think in general, if you're able to like limit your the amount of time you could work and like well, part of the thing is I think we're programmed to like work these like 8-hour days where it's basically like just endure the time when it's like you should probably be structuring our days like you said like 4 hours or so, and that's like trying to get into flow, trying to like have output in that smaller amount of time. But the way it's structured, it's like 8 hours, and it's like no one's gonna work 8 hours in a row, obviously. Like you need to rest. So, I mean, I think we just have it wrong in general, like schools too. It's like we're putting our kids that are like trying to develop just in a box for 8 hours and just no sunlight, no like a lot of them are getting rid of like recess or like you don't even have to have gym class or anything. So they're just sitting around all day. And I don't know. I think there's going to be a big shift in general for like health. I don't know if it's going to come with education. It might have to be like private schools or something making a change because I think public schools in general just like they just don't want to change. They just want to stay like how everything is now. So, um, but yeah, I think just getting outside in general, if you could potentially work outside on the move, that would probably be the most optimal way to work. So
Right.
if that can somehow come to be, I don't know how, but it seems like it would work the best.
Yeah, dude. So I don't know if you saw the advertisement with the new Apple, I think it's like Apple Vision Pro. Um,
No, I haven't seen it.
Dude, it's crazy. You put on these goggles
I'll have to
and
look it
an
up.
entire display opens up in front of your face. It's like augmented reality
Yeah.
basically, and you can work like just in the air, like using your fingers just to flick, and like it's not connected to
Hmm.
anything. It's crazy. It's like super futuristic. But you got me thinking now. So the like number one creator kind of in our space is Dan Coe, and he talks a lot about like the importance of working 4 hours and stopping, the importance of walking, getting into flow state, nature, etc. And I know that he famously writes his newsletters outside on a walk, and it gets me thinking like, I wonder if he's able to tap into like a higher state because he's doing it
Yeah.
outside. Have you ever tried that?
I haven't tried writing a newsletter, but I've definitely tried like walking around, just like I'll just walk and not go on my phone, but like I'll have my phone handy for like writing down like tweet ideas or something like that. I think
Yes.
that's like a pretty staple. If you're coming up, if you're like stuck and you just don't know what to talk about, or like I don't know, just writing in general, it just comes to the head when you're like not engaged with something, but then also when you get that stimulus of walking outside. So I like to do that, but I've never tried like texting while I'm like going around. So maybe maybe I don't know if I would really want to do it, but if I can potentially do it with like glasses or something, that seems interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting. And I know Dan says he like has a trail where he's not gonna like have to look up at all. So he can literally just be
Uh,
like immersed in his phone. I tried to do it one day in Buenos Aires. Like I'm in this big city, ton of cars, like
oh
ton of
yeah.
people, and I was just like bumping into people. It was not good. But maybe I could try it now that I'm home and like I can go to a nature preserve and just like walk around and try to write a newsletter. It sounds like a really interesting idea.
You could also, I've done this before where I've been listening to something while I'm on a walk, like in like a trail or something, and then like some like brilliant idea comes to me, and I'll just like go to voice memos and just like talk for like 3 minutes or something like that. So you can maybe do that as well.
Yeah, I think having these tools handy is really good, but having the mental control to not abuse them is also key because, dude, I mean, I see people that are like scrolling Instagram as they're walking outside. Whereas, if you were able to just like detach for a second and just be with your thoughts and try to get present, you'd probably come up with an idea that could change your life. And I think having some type of idea capturing system in your phone, like I use Notion and I have a bunch of tabs already on my phone. So like if an idea
Mhm.
comes to me, it's instantly I'm writing it down. But I think the only way to come up with novel ideas is to give your brain and to give your subconscious the space to detach from the matrix, to unplug from the matrix, I guess,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word.
Well, yeah, I mean, scrolling in general, I think just dumbs you down because most of the time, like most of the people that are scrolling are not commenting on stuff or like posting it really themselves that much. It's most of just like the passive consumption. So I think doing that is just it's pretty much dumbing you down. Like basically the whole time you're scrolling, you don't have to think about anything yourself. You're just consuming. And a lot of times it's just junk. Not to mention like I just don't think phone like looking down at something that's so small, it's probably getting your eyes all messed up and like I don't know, it definitely I think it's contributing to like a lot of the depression in our society is just the fact that people can't regulate the amount that they use. Um, and like it's times when like you're at the doctor's office or dentist's office or something. It's like the old days when you just had to sit there and like think for like or driving or something. I mean, obviously they probably had the radio and stuff, but it's like those little in between moments when you're just like, oh, let me just go on my phone and look at Instagram. It's like I don't know. I just feel like that's missing. Like the random time you just like find someone like, oh, maybe there's a cute girl right there that you could have gone to talk to, but no, you're just sitting on your phone looking on Instagram, looking at the girl instead. I don't
Right.
know. It's just interesting to me, and I'm trying to be I'm trying to like get off my phone literally as much as I can, to be honest, because I notice like as soon as I start to fall into those patterns of going on my phone, it's like then I just find myself like feeling bad for myself, and I'm just going on my phone, and I'm just like I don't like it's just like a cycle where it's like you start to go on your phone and like it's just like you just scroll. It's like it's hard to just like get off and be like after like scrolling and be like let me go for a walk. Like it's almost like a hurdle that that you have to overcome. But it's like if I'm just reading, it's easy for me to like be like I'm going for a walk because I wasn't so stimulated before. But it's like a walk just seems so boring when you're just like scrolling Twitter and getting that like huge dopamine hit. Or it's like some people like they'll be like scrolling their phone like right before they're going to the gym and stuff, and I'm just like, you get a lot better workout if you just go to the gym and be like, all right, like let me have a kick-ass workout instead of like trying to like go on your phone before. And I'm not like some perfect guy. I'm just trying to say like in general, trying to like reduce the phone use. Like this morning, I just like I think it's huge to like have your phone automatically set to like do not disturb at least like the first hour or two, or like airplane mode or something. But like if you're waking up and immediately checking your phone, you're doing a huge disservice to your health, I think.
I 100% agree with everything you said, bro. Like turning my phone on airplane mode the night before has probably been the biggest lever moving habit that has changed my life, because then when you wake up in the morning, like you're in control of your morning. You dictate what you're going to do. You don't have people coming at you and needing things from you and all this stuff that is just pulling your attention in a million different ways. And another part you said that I find very interesting, especially after reading Flow, is this idea of active versus passive consumption. So, like, quick example that you just said, when you're reading a book, like going for a walk seems like a really good idea. And it seems like a mentally stimulating activity that's rewarding, right? Because you have to actively direct your psychic energy into something versus when you're scrolling social media or you're like watching the news, you have no conscious direction over the information you're getting. It's being fed to you passively. And the crazy thing is, like so many people in modern society, like all their leisure time and time away from work is spent passively consuming information. In those times of passive consumption, they don't lead to flow state at all, because you're not directing your psychic energy towards any type of goal. But if you can change those leisure activities from passive to active, say reading, say going on a walk and thinking, say going to the gym, like those things that actively stimulate the mind, those are the things that actually expand yourself and they make you a higher version of yourself, and they make you feel more fulfilled because they put you into flow state versus passive,
Mhm.
like takes you out of that flow.
Was that part of the whole thing with flow? Is that like if you don't have any control, is that what you're getting at?
Yes,
Like if you don't have
basically,
control over the perceived outcome of like what's going on, because like when you're scrolling
yes,
on Instagram, it's like what's going to really come next. Like
right.
even if sometimes like I'll try to go on Twitter and be like, all right, I need to like make like 5 comments or something, and it's like I'm at the mercy of what comes up from the algorithm. Maybe it's going to give me something that's going to make me feel like shit about myself. So yeah, definitely like taking control and being like, I want to do these activities because I know it's going to like maybe inhibit flow or just not be passive in general is definitely a good skill, but it definitely takes some work, and it definitely is hard for people who are addicted to their phones. They're addicted to maybe smoking weed or something, like just in general if you're not at like a good place as far as I don't even know, like even like food addiction or something like that, it makes it a lot harder to be disciplined to be like, all right, let me not go on my phone and read a book in general. But I think it's just once you start to feel that difference where you're getting energy from doing something productive, like it's almost contagious because it's like, why would I not do something that's like not going to harm my body and it's going to make me smarter, and then I get to get energy from it. I don't know.
100%. And it goes back to the idea of like, is your action conscious and is it directed towards somehow improving you in some way? And it doesn't even have to matter. It could be like DJing or like surfing or like playing chess. Like these things don't maybe matter for like your growth in your business or whatever, but they expand
Mhm.
yourself because they're investing energy and moving towards a goal versus like you're passively consuming something. There's no goal attached. Now, I think you can consciously consume content. Like if you're going on Twitter and it's conscious and you're looking for things that are going to actually better your life, I think that's fine. But when it becomes mindless, that's where you start to border into like somewhat toxic behaviors.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of uh, Charles Eisenstein because he talks about that, which is almost like how you do anything is how you do everything. And like the idea that like any small behavior you're doing, like try to think of it as not a small behavior. And if you think of it like, oh, I'm just doing this little thing, it doesn't matter how I do it, versus like, no, like this is everyone's everyone's kind of like the same, like from that perspective. Like if I can do like my little thing um to the best of my abilities, like with the most patience, with the most effort even, um I think it just makes a better world in general. And I don't know. It's very interesting to think about the idea that like me doing a little like good behavior might influence someone else, even though like they're not technically seeing it, but there might be some like a little like energy there that's like pushing them to maybe like be more inclined to go for a walk or something like that. That's interesting. It makes me want to keep doing all the stuff I like to do that's healthy. So
Same, dude. I
mhm.
love everything you said. I love this conversation. I feel like we hit on a lot of really good stuff. Um,
Yeah.
that being said, I think it's probably a good place to hop off. But what can people expect from you like in the next couple months, and where can people find you at?
I'm doing my podcast right now called The Lamy Show, and I'm doing that on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. So I have like a bunch of episodes coming out for that. So you can find me on there, and then Twitter, it's the Luke Lamy, LukeLamy. So I'm trying to be more active on Instagram in general, just because like I'm posting food and stuff. So definitely because like I'm going carnivore right now, so I'm trying to like put out all the food I'm eating. But I'm trying to like start uploading some videos on there. So if you want to follow me in there, it's Luke Lamy as well. Um, but yeah, just stay tuned. I think I'll have more stuff coming out. So yeah,
Good stuff, dude. And for anybody out there that's
yeah.
curious, getting more into health, like really deep into the health and nutrition aspect of holistic health, definitely check out this guy's podcast. I don't listen to many podcasts right now, but like this is the one I have on repeat. Every guest has been killer. So, dude, keep it up with the podcast. I'm loving it. And I think if you stick with it, bro, like the sky's the limit.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate that,
Hell
and
yeah.
appreciate the conversation as always.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah.